What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Down Once More. Matt here, and on this week's pod, we are going to be talking some of the best Act 1 finales from musicals, movie musicals, stage musicals. That's what we're talking about today. So there will be a few other random things about what's coming up on the pod at the end, but I'm going to get right into the music part. So this came about for the pod because next week, or at the end of this week, I am seeing Rent in concert. So all the music of Rent played with a full orchestra. Maybe overthinking it. It may just be with a band on stage, but they say with a full orchestra. And I'm really curious to see how that's going to work with the different arrangements, because typically Rent, one of the most famous rock operas out there, played with kind of the rock band pieces on stage, famously. So I'm curious what it's going to sound like with an orchestra, or like I said, maybe I'm just overthinking it and it's just with live band. But I'm excited about that. In preparation, I've been rewatching the versions of Rent. So just watched the Broadway Pro Shop Broadway version, which is fantastic, and I think the best recorded version of Rent, and going to rewatch the movie version. We've talked about the comparisons on here a lot. I think our review of Rent was the second or third episode that we did on the pod 3-4 years ago. So if you haven't checked that out, feel free to go do so after you listen to this one. And then on next week's pod, I'm going to be talking about the Rent concert and probably update some of my thoughts on both versions that are out there for you to consume. So with Rent, I was watching it and I think La Vie Boheme, I Should Tell You, La Vie Boheme Reprise, that combination, that mashup is such a giant, fantastic way to close out the Act 1. And so it got me thinking, what are some of my other favorite Act 1 finales that are out there? And that's what we're talking about today. Disclaimer, as always on the pod, this is going to be what are my personal favorites. I'm not saying that these are the quintessential best of all time. Everyone has different opinions and preferences. So as we've talked on here, I tend to gravitate to a lot more of the modern musicals. That's what I enjoy. I appreciate what came before, but that's not really what I gravitate and go towards. So this is going to be skewed a little bit more towards the modern musicals. One thing I appreciate and love about musicals is that there's something for everyone. Whether you enjoy the kind of classic Oklahoma, whether you really like the newer, more modern, like Hamilton, what we're given like Hadestown, things like that. If that's your vibe, that's awesome. That's what's great about musicals. Something for everyone. We're pulling in all these different genres now. Musicals have never been more accessible than they have been now. And I think that's awesome. So don't yuck anyone's yum. These are my feelings, my vibes. I'm going to give what I think are my 5 favorites and then some others that I think are definitely honorable mentions. And there's a lot of them because I love musicals and there's so many strong ones. But I already alluded to it. La Vie Boheme, I Should Tell You, La Vie Boheme Reprise. That grouping, one of my favorite Act 1 finale songs of all time. I think just showing everyone from Alphabet City coming together at the cafe and singing about living the Bohemian life, telling the story. The choreography is fantastic, and just everything that is happening coming off of Maureen's performance, one of the weirder numbers of the show, except Contact is the other one that's a little bit out there. If you are only familiar with the movie version, Contact might throw you for a loop if you're watching that one. But La Vie Boheme, just such a beautiful song and everything that comes together, especially with the I Should Tell You, with Mimi and Roger just having this moment together and like kind of unburdening themselves after they find out they both have AIDS and are just experiencing this life moment, this heartbreaking disease together, and then just finally coming together and then going back into the La Vie Boheme reprise in the Live Cafe, and then closing down after the riot at Marine's show, and then just that Viva la Vie Boheme going right into the lights going out, curtain drop. Fantastic closing to Act 1. It doesn't get much better than that. Second one was going to be one of the most cliched picks, but it's one of the best for a reason, and that's Defying Gravity from Wicked. Now, I will say, when I think of this, I primarily think of Idina Menzel's version from the Broadway cast recording. She has just such one of the most iconic musical theater songs ever because of her performance of that, how long running it was. Now, Cynthia Erivo does a fantastic job and makes it her own in the movie. But if you watched our Wicked review, you know that is one of the pieces of that movie that, as great as it was, that I crucified it for a little bit, because they made that song so disjointed that I feel like Defying Gravity in the movie loses some of its impact and power because it's getting interrupted, broken up, either with new runs added in or just so many dialogue and action pieces that are happening during that. There's so much other work that's going on during this song that it splits it up into, from the beginning of it to the end, is 14 minutes long in the movie. And that's just kind of painful. I feel like it does neuter that song a little bit, which is kind of disappointing because Cynthia Erivo's voice and the choices she makes in it are fantastic. And I think that should be appreciated. And so the album version of it is much better. But in the movie itself, it gets broken up. And I feel like that's really disappointing. But Idina Menzel, Defying Gravity, one of the most iconic Act 1 finales out there. So good. Definitely one of my 5 favorites. Another one I am going to choose is going to be the All I Ask of You reprise from Phantom of the Opera. You can lump, kind of like we did with La Vie Boheme, you can include the regular All I Ask of You in it as well. But the reprise specifically, this heartbreaking moment of the Phantom singing about this unrequited love and just everything that he views that he gave for Christine, that he did for her, and then her just choosing Raoul in his mind, just kind of spurning him, which, as she should, he's an adult, she's a child, really, canonically, in here, but just singing it from the rooftop. That was when, like, as a kid, as I was watching this musical, fell in love with it. That was something that I would just say, you will curse the day. I'm not going to do it to all you listeners. One, because I'm recording this at 5 a.m. I've got people in the house sleeping. And also I don't want to blow out your eardrums, but you will curse the day you did not do all that the Phantom asks of you. It also sounds weird just saying it. Problem with the Rent movie ties together. But that scene, and then going into the chandelier drop to close out Act 1, so powerful, so strong, so impactful, so good. So good. That's another change from the stage musical to the movie version of Phantom of the Opera. The chandelier drop doesn't happen way till the finale of the movie version. On the musical, on stage, chandelier drop is what closes out Act 1. One of the most iconic scenes in musical theater. That chandelier drop, fantastic. And people talk about it for years and years to come. We're talking about it now. So that's 3. I've got these next few are tough. And again, I'm not really ranking. But one that would be remiss to include on here would be Who I'd Be from Shrek. And this is one I talked about it on when I was breaking down my 2024 Apple Music replay. Who I'd Be from Shrek, I discovered for me in like April when I was seeing the national tour of it with Nicholas Hamburg as Shrek, and just gave a fantastic performance of this song, and the song stuck with me. It was my top listened to song of 2024. It was so good. Of course, that's the cast recording version with Brian Darcy James as Shrek, who does a fantastic job. But this song closing it out, where Shrek is kind of and I get it. I talked about this on the replay. It's weird to talk about these kind of the emotional beats and just these deep feelings, and then tag Shrek on at the end of it. But when Shrek is singing about kind of this idyllic, like what he wishes he could be, like this fantasy, of course, he'd be a hero, he'd be a poet, all these different things in a perfect world. This is what he would like to be, what he dreams of, kind of a little bit how he views himself. And then just kind of the hopelessness tied to it, because he doesn't feel like he's deserving of that. He doesn't feel like that is attainable for him, that that's an option, because he's an ogre. And everything with that, and then how the song just pulls in beats from earlier songs with Fiona, because that's when, spoiler alert from Shrek, it's revealed Fiona's also an ogre, and she turns into it at night, and she's singing it as well. Donkey has some beats from his other songs that are getting pulled in there, and it is just such a powerful song, and I truly feel like it is one of my top 5 favorite Act 1 finales out there, from Shrek. So there is a pro shot of Shrek the Musical. I'll be honest, I haven't even finished watching that yet. Got pulled in a couple different ways, but I had a lot of fun with this national tour. It just closed its run. But Nicholas Hamburg as Shrek, so good. That performance of Who I'd Be caused me to go find it, add it to playlists. Favorite song of the year. So far we have La Vie Boheme, Defying Gravity, All I Ask of You, Reprise, and Who I'd Be. Fifth one was a really hard one to pull in here. And I was very close to doing One Day More from Les Miserables, because I feel like that is one of the most iconic and one that so many people have at the top of their list. And it is a fantastic song. Just everything kind of culminating at that end of Act 1, the different points of view coming into it. And it's so good, because realistically, if you're going to a musical, yeah, the chances you're going to leave after Act 1, very slim, but an Act 1 finale, part of that job is to build up for what's to come in Act 2, to make you want to come back, to just anticipate what's going to happen. That's part of the reason why I think of the All I Ask of You reprise is so powerful too. You're ending with that chandelier drop. Like, holy shit, what comes next? Where do we go from this? The Phantom is on a fucking warpath, right? And One Day More just does a great job building for that revolution you're having when Javert's gonna go undercover with the revolutionaries and everything. Just everything with that song is so powerful, but it's not my fifth pick. My fifth pick is going to be Blackout from In the Heights. And we haven't talked about In the Heights on here yet. That's probably a review that is coming in 2025. Because as much as I love Hamilton, and as iconic as Hamilton is, and probably the most loved and kind of respected musical of Lin-Manuel Miranda's career, I actually probably tend to gravitate a little bit more to In the Heights. You can tell that Hamilton, very personal and very just impactful to Lin-Manuel Miranda himself, and it was a story they really wanted to tell. But In the Heights, you can tell, is from a very, very deeply personal level from Lin-Manuel Miranda and that cast and everything that happens in that musical. And Blackout kind of encompasses with there's the heat wave, and then finally like the blackout in Washington Heights, and just this chaos that is happening. But then also everyone coming together, the different relationships throughout it, them lighting off fireworks to light up the night sky when there's no power, and everything that's going on. It is such a fantastic Act 1 closer. Again, bringing you coming back and wanting to see what comes next in Act 2. Now, in the movie version, they shuffle some of the like chain of events around a little bit. The format's a little bit altered, but still so good, so impactful. and so fantastic. And Usnavi, played by Lin-Manuel Miranda in the original one, the musicals he writes, he plays the lead. That's what happens. Well, not all of them, but a lot of the stage ones. But Anthony Ramos does a fantastic job in the movie version of that. I really enjoyed the cast of the movie version of In the Heights, which we'll talk about when we review it. But Blackout, I think, it creeps into my favorite Act 1 finale songs. This honorable mentions list is long, so we're going to get into that. I talked about One Day More right before this. Great, iconic, right on the edge. Two other ones that were right on the cusp that were vying for that fifth spot. It was also Nonstop from Hamilton, another Lin-Manuel Miranda banger, closing out Act 1, just after the war, everything Hamilton is doing, just writing so many great moments in this song to close out Act 1 is so good. So good. And then the other one that almost edged into that fifth spot is the quintet version of Tonight, going into the finale of West Side Story, when it's the Jets, the Sharks, Maria, just everyone prepping for what's going to go down before the Rumble and meeting up, and just it has a little bit of everything in it, and it's a fantastic song, very powerful, impactful, so good. So good. I said one more that was around the cusp. The final one that actually was on the cusp is You Will Be Found by Dear Evan Hansen. And that one was the original one I was going to pick, actually ahead of All I Ask of You Reprise. But the more I got thinking of it and just how powerful All I Ask of You Reprise is, I had to put it in there. But You Will Be Found. It's one of the two ones on my necklace that you can't read on here on YouTube. But I have Fear or Love from Tick Tick Boom. Are You Letting Yourself Be Led by Fear or Love? And You Will Be Found from Dear Evan Hansen. You Will Be Found, I feel like, is such a powerful song, and everything that happens with it is telling such a message. Is it a perfect message? No. We talked about that when I reviewed the tour and when we reviewed the movie. Are there some things that could be maybe a little dangerous with Dear Evan Hansen? Sure. But the overall message is, even though you may feel alone in what you are going through and how you're feeling, there's hope. It doesn't always have to be that way. There's other people who are going through this. Is that always true 100% of the time? No. There are things where you may be the only person feeling that. However, sometimes just having that feeling of hope and not just feeling lost in hopelessness, feeling that, okay, there's someone else out here that can either come alongside me or that's had these thoughts, had these feelings, is going through this, can be enough to help you get through. The way I say can't be enough, that's not obviously the only thing, but knowing that you're not alone in something, knowing that this isn't how it always needs to be, knowing that there is hope, can be so powerful and impactful. And I feel like that's what's so great about the song, just seeing that message that Evan is sharing and then how it impacts everyone else. And then in Act 2, you get kind of the snowball everything of that, and just how, selfishness takes over, a little bit of greed, just all these things that factor into it. Everything that comes from You Will Be Found is the story we're telling in Act 2, right? From this moment, from how powerful this message is, and then how that can be good and dangerous. And that's what Act 2 is about. And so You Will Be Found, fantastic Act 1 finale. I should just done a 10 list, top 10, and then that would have been really easy. Then I could have included all of these in. But another fantastic one is Our Love Is God from Heathers. Heathers is one of my favorite musicals out there. I think probably my favorite adaptation of a non-musical movie. So my favorite musical adaptation of a non-musical movie. When it started out, it didn't have a ton of I'm just hitting everything. When it started out, it didn't have a ton of success in the US, but it had a pretty solid run over in the West End. It just closed on the West End recently and is coming back to the US later this year. I want to say March or April, but Our Love is God, such a kind of powerful song using iconic words, lines from the movie, and get turns into just this song of them kind of planning things and what they're going to go through. I don't want to spoil it for anyone. But Heathers the Musical, one of my favorites. They did do a pro shop on the West End. West End crowds are a riot, it seems like. But that's on a Roku original. That's the only place you can find it and watch it. But Our Love is God, really good. Another one of my favorites is Man Up from Book of Mormon, when you're having Elder Cunningham just kind of coming to this realization that he's going to need to step up, and it's up to him to help the Ugandan people. And just the opening of that is just so funny. It's him just having the thoughts to him. He's like, well, what did Jesus do when they sentenced him to die? Did he turn, walk away? Did he just sit down and cry? He dug down deep, knew what he had to do, and he crawled up on that cross because he knew that he had to man up. So he crawled up on that cross and he stuck it out. It's just, is it a little irreverent? Yes, this entire musical, very irreverent, but it is such a fun song and I love it. I saw a lot of people talking on, I think it was a Reddit post, where they're like, well, now with Wicked success, what other musicals need to be turned into movies, in your opinion? And there are quite a few people saying Book of Mormon. Well, I love Book of Mormon. A movie version of Book of Mormon, I feel like would not work in the slightest. I think the story is very irreverent. Right. It's not necessarily PC. I mean, it's from the South Park creators, which they have a musical. I believe the movie's coming out this year. A musical that they're doing with Kendrick Lamar. And I am very intrigued by that movie musical. And so we'll see what happens with that. We will definitely be talking about that on the pod. But I just feel like putting the stage, like having it actually be set in Uganda, and I don't know. I feel like it would be weird. This is one I'd love to see a pro shot of it. I think it is a very fun musical. Some of the most fun that I've had in the theater. And the fucking audience was loving it. The most laughs I've seen of any of my shows that I've gone to. And so I would love to see a recorded version of that. I'd love to see more of it. But I think a pro shot would be the way to go with that instead of turning it into an actual movie taking place in Uganda with all the warlord, the violence in it too. I feel like just do a pro shot with it. It's great that way. Another one they have on here is going to be Santa Fe from Newsies, especially the Broadway version. They have a pro shot of that with Jeremy Jordan, and that's on Disney Plus. So highly encourage you to check that out if you haven't. Jeremy Jordan, talked about it on here before. One of my favorite musical performers, just a fantastic voice. And I've just finished my rewatch of Smash, and in season 2, the songs of that with so many big names behind the songs of the hit list, the musical within the musical show Smash on there. You got Pasek and Paul, you have Joe Iconis who did Be More Chill. Just a lot of names, but there are a lot of really fun, good songs in Smash. So if you haven't checked that out, it's on Peacock. Highly encourage you to. It's a lot of fun. And it's now on Broadway HD. So if you're a Broadway HD subscriber, you can check it out there. But Santa Fe, just such a powerful song after Crutchy's been taken. And because you have the Santa Fe reprise, well, what do they call it? Not reprise, but it takes place earlier in the musical, but that's not the actual version of Santa Fe. That's just a little alluding to it. And the actual just Santa Fe is what closes out Act 1. Just him singing about this kind of hope, but then a little bit of hopelessness and everything that's going on. It is such a good song, so powerful, great Act 1 finale. Another more fun one is Bad Idea from Waitress. pro shot of that is out now. A lot of fun. Drew Gelling, Sarah Bareilles. Drew Gelling, I was watching Smash. Bartender, I'm like, I'm pretty sure that's a Dr. Pomander from Waitress. I think that's Drew Gelling. Looked it up. It was. Lot of musical people in there. Philippa Sue, Eliza Hamilton herself, is in season 2 as part of the ensemble of the Hit List musical within it. Just a lot of names there. Will Chase is in it, and he plays Roger in the Pro Shop Broadway version of Rent. And so a lot of people in Smash that you will recognize. Is a lot of fun. So very cheesy, but still very fun musical Smash. So Esmeralda from Hunchback of Notre Dame, the Broadway version of it. This is one of the expanded songs in it that is just so good. So good. Such a great Act 1 finale. Happy Ending from Twisted. This is a Team Star Kid production. It's in full on YouTube. Rayleigh and I talked about it. I think it was the review that was probably the less had the least amount of actual substance to it, because I think it was us just giving glowing reviews to this movie and how fun and perfect it is, because Team Star Kid does some fantastic productions, and I think Twisted is just top of the top. It is so good. It is so much fun. And this song with Jafar just singing about wanting his happy ending and what's out there, really good. More modern one is My Green Light from The Great Gatsby. Again, big Jeremy Jordan fan, but this to close out Act 1 of Gatsby and Daisy just coming together, finding out that they've still been longing for each other after all of these years. Just this big love song that starts with them and their relationship about to begin in the musical is so good. Eva Noblezada and Jeremy Jordan just sound so great together. It is fantastic. One of my favorites, musical that premiered in 2023. Past is Catching Up to Me still takes the cake as my favorite song from that musical, but My Green Light is fantastic. Another one is a Someone Gets Hurt reprise from Mean Girls. Is also a fantastic Act 1 closer. Regina George, just, you can tell that she's about to snap. She finds out what Katie's doing, and planning her kind of revenge. Twist it is fantastic. And while I don't love the movie version of the musical, the stage musical, I feel like is the best musical version of that because of lots of things in my mini review that I did on it. Renee Rapp singing Someone Gets Her reprise is fantastic. Renee Rapp is fantastic as Regina George. She played her on Broadway. Definitely the highlight of the movie, and just such a great song. Like, in general, I feel like it's a great musical theater song, and Regina George, that character, is so iconic as well. So good. Great Act 1 finale. Not quite on the scale as some of these other songs, right? But still, you can have a intimate Act 1 finale, if that makes sense, that is still very powerful. And then the last one I have on my list is another newer one, and that's Run Run Brother from The Outsiders. The 1-2 punch of Run Run Brother to close out Act 1, and then Justice for Tulsa to open up Act 2 are two of my favorite songs from the Outsiders musical. Of course, I haven't seen it live. This is just from the cast recording. There's some fantastic cast recordings out there, people, and Wikipedia is there to help you fill in the gap. They have some great synopsises. I don't know how to pluralize synopsis. I'm now overthinking it. But that has kind of the story outline and then where the musical numbers fall within it that can help you fill in the gaps. Now, we've had discussions on here about, is it kind of cheating if you listen to the cast recording before seeing something? Like, should you see it on stage, be able to view the product as the artist intended it, with the dialogue, the acting, just all of those things with it, taking the full picture before you just listen to the music? In a perfect world, sure. But sometimes seeing things at Broadway can be cost prohibitive. Sometimes there's not pro shots of it. That it's not always accessible until things have major commercial runs or get very, very popular. And so I'm so thankful that they make cast recordings for as many things as they do. I wish they do pro shots for more things, but I get how from kind of a finance standpoint, doing pro shots and putting it out, marketing, everything that would go with that for every show, not always feasible. I get it. And you don't want to take away. You don't want people to not be going to see live theater because they've seen the pro shot. They've seen a recorded version of it or a movie of it. I will say, even if there's the best pro shot possible, it's a whole different thing seeing it live. Live theater is fantastic. You can feed off the energy of the performers. They can feed off the energy of the crowd. It's just a whole different experience. Now, I highly recommend that people get out there, see as many live theater performances, even like community productions. There's a community playhouse that's going to be doing a production of Next to Normal later this year that I'm extremely excited about. There haven't been any tours of Next to Normal in the U.S. coming anywhere here lately, and that's a musical that I discovered in 2024 and fell in love with. And it's just for how heartbreaking it is and how, like, I've Been was one of my other top songs of 2024, and just that musical album in general was top one up there. So that's going to close out kind of my very long list of what I think are the best top Act 1 finales. But to kind of recap, my personal favorites in no order. Well, I'm going to order them. I'm going to order them now. I'm going to do what I said I wasn't going to do. I think I've got to put Who I'd Be from Shrek as number one. Like, I just have to. It was my top song last year. I feel like it's not as well known as some of the others, but for me, one of the more powerful ones and ones I still go back to. Who I'd Be from Shrek. Then we're going to do All I Ask of You reprise from Phantom of the Opera. Then Defying Gravity from Wicked. Then La Vie Boheme, I Should Tell You, La Vie Boheme reprise. And then Blackout from In the Heights. And then lots of fun honorable mentions that we talked about here. But that's going to do it for that list. A few other housekeeping notes on the pod. Like I mentioned earlier, next week's episode, I will be talking about Rent live in concert and then probably some updated thoughts on the Rent filmed versions that are out there and just Rent as a whole. It's been, like I said, 3-4 years since we reviewed it on here. So update some of those as there've been a few more listens, rewatches in there. Then the week after that, Brad will be joining the pod for our first full musical movie review of 2025. And we are going to be talking Kneecap, the kind of musical biopic, a little bit about Irish rap group using their native tongue, and a little rebellious on that. It came out last year. It is now streaming on Netflix, and also it's available digital if you want to purchase it there or rent it there. But I'm excited about that one. I've been wanting to watch this movie for a while, and I've been holding out until I knew we were going to talk about it, so thoughts are fresh going into it. I'm excited. That's coming up. Hopefully you're enjoying the pod. Hopefully everyone's 2025 is getting off on the right foot. Thank you for taking your time to watch or listen to the pod. I know there's a lot of things you can do with your time. There's so many, even just podcasts, vying for your time and attention. Life is a very real thing. Hopefully you enjoyed the episode, having some fun. We can provide a little bit of escape for you. As always, appreciate you following the pod, subscribing to the pod, sharing episodes, commenting. Comment below what your favorite Act 1 finale songs are. What you think either are blind spots for me, because I haven't seen a lot of the more classic ones. Like something I saw pop up on a lot of lists was Sunday from Sunday in the Park with George. Iconic, one of the older Stephen Sondheim musicals. And I just... Stephen Sondheim? But I just, let me know what you think I need to check out. You're like, what musicals do you want to see us talk about that we haven't seen? What songs do I need to check out? Let us know. There's a TV movie of Sunday in the Park with George in 2013. Fun fact. But let us know in the comments what Act 1 finale songs you think I missed and need to check out, what your favorites are, what your top 5 are. Let us know. YouTube comments, Instagram comments. DM us if you don't want to. Give us ideas. We like hearing what you guys want to hear us talk about. There will be best Act 2 openers will come out. Brad and I kind of already talked about best opening numbers on here. We're going to do best finales. We did a blur. We've done so many episodes of the pod by now. But those things will be coming. What are other things you want to see from the pod in 2025? Let us know that in the comments, along with your favorite Act 1 finales. And have a great week. Thank you for spending your time with us. And as always, don't forget to go down once more. Later.